Miesha Tate is a pioneer in mixed martial arts. She fought her way through an era where women's MMA was barely accepted in mainstream sports culture. Through her determination and talent, she would be one of the first to compete as a woman in the UFC, before going on to become the bantamweight world champion with a submission win over Holly Holm back in 2016, solidifying her status as a legend in the sport.
I look back on my career, with a very nostalgic, kind of fond attitude. I think that I accomplished everything that I wanted to. I maybe would have liked to get a couple rematches and avenge some losses, but realistically, nobody gets to avenge every loss that they want. And they were all great learning experiences. So I'm very happy with everything that I accomplished, and becoming a world champion in multiple organizations is nothing to look back and feel bad about.
Having now spent 3 years away since retiring from competition, the former champ has had valuable time to reflect on her achievements.
I think my legacy in this sport is about mental fortitude, and just where it can take you. And I think I show that when you have the right mindset, you can really go beyond where everybody else thinks that you can go, and including where you think you can go. Because there's been so many times when I have pushed myself beyond what I believed were my limitations and what I believed was my stopping point, and I was able to accomplish so much greatness and self-learning and growth, and I think that's really what it's all about, and I hope that people reflect on my career the same way.
Given that the UFC only introduced a women's division back in 2012, it goes to show just how young this sport is for female athletes competing at the highest level, though there has been plenty of progress since.
We've definitely come a long way. Women's martial arts is something that I feel like I got to be a part of from really the ground up. When I started wrestling at 15 years old, there was no other women wrestling. There wasn't women's wrestling teams. And then transitioning into martial arts itself, women's fighting was next to nothing, and it definitely wasn't taken seriously. It was really looked at more as a spectacle, and all the big organizations at the time were looking at it like, we don't want to touch that. We don't want to embrace women fighting. And so we had another fight, not just the fight inside of the cage, but also the fight outside of it, to just get accepted. And that was a long journey. It was 10 years just about to the day that I turned professional to capturing a world title. So from my first fight all the way to that fight with Holly Holm, that was a decade of blood, sweat, and tears in the making. And it was pretty cool to start from the very bottom and essentially go to one of the highest levels.
Since retirement, Tate has continued to flourish with her media work, exhibiting her immense skills as an analyst. She began a new chapter and accepted a role based out of Singapore as vice president at One Championship. The company had been making headlines with big-name fighter acquisitions like Demetrius Johnson and Eddie Alvarez, convincing a legendary figure like Miesha Tate to move halfway across the world and join the cause was another significant coup.
It's the same reason why I made the decision to start wrestling, the same reason I made the decision to start fighting. It was a calling. I didn't seek this opportunity out. It's something that came to me by living my life the way I've always led my life, which means I follow my heart and I allow myself to be comfortable being uncomfortable. I want to push myself outside of my comfort zone, and I've definitely done that by moving to Singapore. It's a culture shock for one, and my plate is beyond full right now. It's definitely way outside of the realm of fighting and being a martial artist. So I think when you consider all those things, it just was meant to be, and I wasn't afraid to take the opportunity that came to me, just like with martial arts and just like with wrestling. A lot of people looked at me like, are you crazy? What? You're going to wrestle on the guys team and compete against guys? And what? You want to get punched in the face? What's wrong with you? I've always had those kinds of People looking at me that way, and those kinds of expressions, other people's doubt in my ability to do something, and then here I am, what, you're going to move all the way across the world to where? What are you doing? Are you sure it's good for your daughter? Are you sure it's good for your family? And, I've taken all of that into consideration, and not only do I think it's good for my family, I think it's great for my family, and something I really want to set a strong example for is my daughter, that she doesn't have to choose between having a family and being a successful woman in, whatever career perspective that she chooses to follow.
As well as being vice president of the rapidly growing Asian powerhouse, Cupcake also accepted a position as an instructor at Evolve MMA, one of the best martial arts gyms in the world.
So being an instructor here at Evolve is an incredible opportunity because Evolve has the top gym as far as martial arts instructors go. There's world champions. All of them are world champions here. And I think the goal for Evolve is to unleash greatness. We want to instill that it doesn't matter what your job is during the day, whether you're a Grab driver or whether you're an executive or whether you actually want to be a fighter, whether you want to be an MMA athlete. You don't have to come here and feel intimidated. Like, you can come here and unleash the greatness that you have within yourself, and the morals, the integrity, the values that Evolve has, I think, is something that everybody can appreciate.
Having made the move to Asia, the former UFC star has been open about her understanding of how the promotion of the sport has been approached differently in the Western world.
I think MMA in the West has really become more about, let me reset that. I think Western MMA has lost sight a little bit sometimes of what the true meaning of being a martial artist is. And with one championship, and here in Asia, where this is the home of martial arts, it seems the core value of what we're trying to do, how the athletes should respect each other, should have integrity, should have moral values, should strive to be a role model, should be heroes for our youth. Those are things that are very much intact with one championship and more sustainable, in my opinion, because if you sell something that's flashy, you're going to have the flashy kind of fans that are in and out. But when you sell like real substance, and I think that's what one championship does very well, then you have people who are truly a fan of the sport and truly a fan of the athletes themselves.
Ever the high achiever, the new VP has set herself clear goals, and she looks to leave her mark here in Asia.
One of my biggest goals in Singapore is to inspire people to get healthy, to get fit, to train, and I particularly want to reach out to the women. I want them to understand this is not a sport that's just for men. And I want to encourage more women to get involved competitively. It's one thing to come in here and have a great workout. That's great too. But if you want to pursue a dream of becoming a top martial artist, I want women to understand that there's a real path to that, and that it's completely acceptable and it's completely doable. So I want to provide that kind of support system for the females here. I want to continue to work on the women's divisions. I'd like to help those fill out a little bit. And I personally, coming from the bantamweight 135-pound division, here there's a plethora of small women. But what we haven't really seen a lot of in one championship yet is, the bigger women. I would like to get them involved as well, because I know even throughout Asia that there are some women who are in those upper weight classes who would like the opportunity to show off their greatness as well. So I'd like to particularly focus on filling out the little bit heavier women's divisions as well.
As an MMA icon, Tate will also be keeping a keen eye on the local talent and hopes to assist in unearthing the next big star.
I would like to be. Hopefully, I think I will be traveling around a little bit and looking for talent. My role in that is not 100% clear yet, but I do believe that I will be someone who can give insight, and obviously I have a lot of experience, right? So I think I will be able to spot talent and say, it's not just someone's skill set, it's about their mind and their heart. So when you see somebody who works harder than the rest of them, you can teach a skill set, but you can't teach heart, and I think that's what I'll be really good at spotting is heart.